Taylor County High School. He was also a student in my AP class. He scored a 4 on the AP exam, a 4 out of 5, mind you, which means that Sean, yes, good job. This means that Sean did not have to take freshman college English, because 1 and 2 actually, because he made a 4, as did Miss Keene, who was standing back here in the back. She scored highly as well. Sean is currently the JROTC Battalion Commander. He is also Senior Class Vice President. He is the National Honor Society Vice President, and he will play his 4th year of varsity baseball this year. Sean has also been accepted into the Citadel, which he failed to share with me until this past week, and we talked about that already. But I think that is an amazing thing, and he is very blessed for this opportunity. Yes. Sean is also currently applying to the United States Military Academy at West Point. So our first place winner, Mr. Sean Patterson.
Got to make sure everybody can hear me. I'm a little taller than the other winners. I walked in at about 12 o'clock, and the gravity of what I was writing really hit me. I was reviewing this war memorabilia and listening to the music that was being played, and as a civilian I felt pride and happiness, and it evoked all of these positive emotions. And I realized that for the men who lived when this music was created and who fought during the time that this music was played, it may evoke other emotions, emotions of loss, of heartache, and hardship. And before I start, I would just like to thank each and every veteran in this room today for all the hardships that you've endured. And I'll start off with a quote written shortly after the Great War that many of these men have fought in. If you're on the wrong road, progress means doing an about turn and walking back to the right road. And in that case, the man who turns back soonest is the most progressive man. The great theologian and critically acclaimed writer C.S. Lewis said this over half a century ago in his writings of Mere Christianity, concerning men's propensity for and gravitation towards sin. I believe Lewis's statement is more than applicable to contemporary American decline and degradation. Because folks, we are on the wrong road. Currently, we're a nation of various peoples, separated and characterized by ideals. Republicans on one side, Democrats on the other, conservatives and liberals. But as of late, trends indicate that one ideal has gained momentum by way of political control and teachings of moral relativism. And that ideal is progressivism. These self-proclaimed crusaders for progress devote their time to pushing America into constant change and still insist that it is good. They refuse to acknowledge the pleas of the working class and instead assert that they are advocating this change for the quote-unquote silent majority. Which leads me to pose a question, friends. Why is the majority still so silent? And the answer is deafeningly simple. Because this majority does not exist. They are figments of greedy, power-hungry imaginations that need a cause to rally behind. And a sympathetic one at that, hence the term silent majority. It's as if this group is fearful to speak up and requires representation. Our country will not pull itself out of the pit of self-loathing and regret it is currently residing in unless we can reach a consensus regarding these false teachings. We must acknowledge our folly as a people, grow a sense of integrity, and fight to influence true progress because we, in this room, are the majority. We must not accept the lies of postmodern thought hidden under the guises of equality and cute campaign slogans. Progressivism is change that we can't believe in. To weed out progressivism and pull it up by its invasive roots, we have to fight it on all grounds. Initially, we must starve these dogmas by cutting off their supply chain financially. Bleeding heart supporters of progressivism constantly assert that wealth redistribution will benefit our country in a myriad of ways. Well, I have news for these false teachers. America didn't become the land of the free and the home of the brave through large-scale wealth redistribution. The United States became what it is today through the use of a capitalist economy, one that allows for free enterprise and entrepreneurship to grow. We, as United States, must come together to combat this lie perpetuating the welfare for vote system that the progressives so smugly take advantage of. That's where I challenge you, each and every one of you, to remember they are counting on us to give up our right to vote for their money and empty promises. And once we begin to beat back the economic aspects of progressivism, attacking it on philosophical grounds shall yield even more results for freedom. The vast majority of state colleges and universities have taken on strictly liberal personas. They enforce their leftist exclusivity through expulsion and termination of any students or faculty that refuse to conform to the school's own twisted set of morals. For example, Barry University in Miami even went as far as to verbally endorse funding a pro-ISIS club and then quickly suspended the student for speaking out about it. When we begin to become the student and publicly speak out against the illicit indoctrination of our youth in school, we will win this war on philosophical grounds. We have become so complacent that we are tolerating restrictions on prayer, the Bible, and on free speech, not just in college, but in state-funded high schools as well. Instead of advocating the sound moral doctrines of peace and love, our schools are teaching the 4 pillars of Islam and requiring students to recite the Islamic conversion prayer, "There is no God but Allah." And it pains me to say that. Ironically, this indoctrination occurred in what used to be the heart of the Bible Belt, Maury County, Tennessee. As I said before, the progressive movement is doing this under the cloaks of equality and tolerance, but as of October, the Tennessee state-funded school has yet to give equal lessons about Judeo-Christian principles. This is the epitome of a paradox of intolerance. This, my friends, is where we are the weakest. It is as if we have given up the battle for this nation's young, impressionable minds and have handed them over to hypocrites and false teachers. Lastly, is the universal ground that we must stake our claim upon, and those grounds are that of the geopolitical sphere. For the last decade, we have been oblivious of what our elected officials have been doing in Washington, D.C. They attach riders and secret clauses to bills that otherwise seem harmless. Take the notorious Affordable Care Act, for example, which was supposed to bring inexpensive health care and medical benefits to the populace of America, but instead was unreadable until passed. How that is just and reasonable, I do not know. House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi is even quoted as saying, "We have to pass the bill before you can see what's in it." I would like to bid Nancy Pelosi, the Honorable Miss Nancy Pelosi, a thank you for raising our healthcare premiums while delaying our doctor's appointments. If we can get this argument across to our elected officials and the Congress of the United States, the rest of our pieces will fall into place and we will gain the traction that we've been so desperately praying for. We require new, polar opposite political leadership that would lead the nation against the headwinds of geopolitics rather than simply letting the world dictate our course. We need leaders with courage, depth, and reason. Moreover, this country requires a steadfastness that hasn't been witnessed since the likes of Theodore Roosevelt and Ronald Reagan. I would argue that we cling to these images of the leaders, not because they were perfect or infallible, but because they were steadfast. Roosevelt saw the need for a trust buster, and Reagan our need for a military man of might. So they became the very things that our nation needed, and they always stuck to their guns. If we continue to hand over our elections to crooked and morally deprived politicians, we are bound to continue in our state of decline. That is the simple and undeniable truth. Now, we must heed the warnings against the tyranny that our forefathers so adamantly told us of. This is your call to action and your call to vote. I challenge you to preserve the country for your posterity, just as these veterans did so for us. We must not falter and we must not fail in this endeavor, for if we do, the America of tomorrow will be unrecognizable when compared to the America of freedom and patriotism that we hold in such high regard. On this Veterans Day, we gather to honor those that have so gallantly answered the call of duty to protect this land from all enemies, both foreign and domestic. They gave their very lives for the cause that I am speaking of. Now, their baton has been passed on, their saber laid down. They have given us the opportunity to pick up their instruments of liberty and press on. I only hope that we can be so brave as to continue their fight. This is my vision for America. Thank you.